to represent how the state's geographic and diversity is. And we actually wanted to make sure that there was different political party representation. So we have 4 of the people on the commission will be Democrats, 4 Republicans, and 5 independents or third party members. And they're going to come together. They're going to go across the state, listen to community input. People can even come and bring their own maps. And then they have a set of criteria for how to draw those maps that really ends up, again, focused on that symmetry of how people are voting should be how our seats end up looking.
And so when you say 13 citizens, are there any restrictions on who can serve on that committee?
Yeah, so we're really trying to take the people who have that worst conflict of interest out of this process. They can still go and give public feedback during the process, but we don't want them being the ones who are drawing the lines because they have an ulterior motive. So people who are politicians or have been in the last couple of years who are registered partisan candidate, lobbyists, directly registered in a leadership position for a political party in the state, all of them are excluded from this commission, as well as close relatives to them. But pretty much everybody else can either apply or that we're going to do kind of a random mailing out to people too, to invite people who, even if they haven't heard of redistricting before, might make really good commissioners.
So what has your group done so far? What stage are you at, and what might still be left to be done to get this into the Michigan Constitution?
So we wrote constitutional language, and then we presented it to the Secretary of State, and we got our petitions. We had to gather 315,654 signatures in 180 days in order to qualify for the ballot. We ended up gathering over 425,000 in 110 days and turned them into the Secretary of State just last month, which is very exciting. And so now we're waiting to have the Secretary of State just verify all of those. And we're really in campaign mode, trying to make sure that people know about this proposal and know that they can vote yes on November 6th of 2018.
So how is that number determined? Is that a certain portion of the Michigan population?
Yeah, I think it's 10% of the amount of voters who voted in the previous gubernatorial election.
Did that seem like an overwhelming number before you got started?
Yes. So I kind of made the Facebook post, and then I was talking with my coworker who really encouraged me to stick with it. Her name's Kelly, and to create a Facebook group. And I'm like, okay, let's figure this out. And we're literally writing on a napkin. And I'm like, okay, so that's only 3,000 a day. There's 2 of us. We'll both quit our jobs. And that means we have to get 1,500 each every single day. We can totally do this. And even I think I looked up, my own city's population, and it was more than everybody who lived in that one city. And I'm like, okay. And they have to be registered Michigan voters. And there's all these other rules you have to follow. So it did. And actually, traditionally in Michigan, it's very, very hard to get on the ballot because it is purposefully a short time frame. And there's those rules. Yeah, but we ended up doing it, which is really great too.
So you talked about some of the ways that people were out collecting signatures. How much of an effort did that take? You said if you had just the 2 of you been doing it, you would have each had to get 1,500 signatures a day. So how many people were working on this, and how much time did they have to spend on this?
Yeah, we have thousands of people who are plugged in. For actual gathering signatures, we had over 3,500 people out gathering signatures. We were able to gather signatures from all 83 counties in Michigan in under 40 days, which is very exciting too. And really, it was just, a lot of them had never even been a part of a political campaign before, but we did training and people wanted to try, and they did an amazing job. We divided our state into 14 different regions and just had field teams everywhere trying to cover every part of Michigan. And really, we saw across the state that people are very tired of not being listened to. They're very tired of, politicians being more interested in, lobbyists or special interests than actually listening to the people of the state. And so that part was kind of, easy. Once people started hearing about the petition, we'd literally have people standing in line waiting to sign, which was also just really, really good to know, because we didn't want to try and pass something that people didn't want, but we've really only seen the opposite, that the people of Michigan want to change, and they want to be able to trust our government again. And I think this has really eroded some of that trust.
So I like big logistical problems, but that sounds like a massive amount of organizing that you needed to do to make sure that all these different areas were being covered.
Yes, our field director, Jamie Lyons-Eddy, and then her deputy staff, Joe Spalding, they just were a power team and were amazing at that. Jamie's background is actually being an engineer and a math teacher. And I think that was like one of our biggest assets, because from the beginning, she was, okay, if I have this many volunteers who have to gather, 10 signatures a day, then what does that mean? And always doing the numbers to try and see how can we gather this. It was, I think, a lot of work, but that leads back to the inspiration I was talking about a little bit earlier. I think people, once they knew what to do and felt plugged in, I mean, it really felt like a community. A bunch of us went out on election day to stand outside the polls because you already registered Michigan voters there. And it was the first day of snow up in the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So we had people out in the snow while the rest of us downstate had no snow. And so, when you look at that and they're talking about how their pens are freezing and we need to design a pen warmer. And it just makes you be like, you know what, I got to go do this too. And it really has been about kind of camaraderie and coming together as Michiganders and not as like political party or any of that, just regular people who want to, improve our state.
So you said you're now in campaign mode, so you need to get this passed once it's on the ballot. And so is that just a simple majority? You need 50% plus one of the vote on the ballot?
Yeah, for those who vote on the proposal. The ballot questions will all be kind of at the bottom of the ballot. So anybody who votes on that, yes, we will need 51% or 50.01% in order to pass it. So we're talking really about, around 2 million voters, honestly, that we need to touch base with and make sure that they're going to vote yes.
And so what are the ways that you're trying to reach out to voters to make sure they know about this?
Yeah, so it's been a lot of different ways. We've continued our town halls more as like an education town hall, but also for people to still come together and talk about their experience. It's going to be a lot of conversations, a lot of door knocking, around Thanksgiving. We encourage everybody to try and just talk about gerrymandering or redistricting, because again, it's a topic that maybe people know about, but don't really think about often or can't really remember how it's drawn or what gerrymandering is. But once they hear about it, I think it rings a chord and people just genuinely can see that it's not fair. And we're also, trying to do some fun things too. We had a group that one of our volunteers actually out of wood made a giant gerrymander. So the Boston Gazette is kind of like the founding of the term gerrymandering, and it's this big political cartoon that kind of looks like a dragon. And so they made a giant one, and it says, like slay the dragon, and we have like little swords and helmets that you can wear to fight the gerrymander. And just kind of trying to raise awareness and bring people together that way too. It's definitely a creative and fun campaign.
So it seems like some of this must cost money. What sorts of fundraising have you been doing?
Yes, it does. It's very interesting. The Michigan Campaign Finance Network did a report comparing. We have like 7 or 8 different ballot proposals going on for the 2018 election. And they have a comparison of all of them and their individual donors. And we have actually 13 times more individual donors than any of the other initiatives, which is fantastic, but far less money. So you see one of the other ballot initiatives, and it had, I think, 4 or 5 donors when we have several thousand, yet they have millions of dollars. And we have like 300,000. And it does cost a lot of money. Even printing the petitions and mailing them is like $40,000. And when you start just on Facebook, you don't have a bank account. And so it has been individual donors giving what they can. We have held some different fundraisers around Halloween. We had this awesome political band that did a Halloween show for us where the proceeds got donated to the campaign. And, people are even holding just like backyard fundraisers to invite their friends and family and talk about the petition and bring that in. But it's really been kind of a grassroots effort. And the really cool part, I think, is that a really high percentage of our volunteers have also given to the campaign. So we're really citizen-led. Not only, do we have people volunteering and making it so that we can qualify for the ballot or talk about this, but they believe in it so much that they're also backing it with their dollars too. And it's another part of just the inspiring piece of like people really coming together, wanting to do this the right way.
So if people want to learn more, either to help volunteer or to give money, how could they go about learning more?
Yeah, so if anybody would like to get connected, they could go to votersnotpoliticians.com/donate or /volunteer. The cool part about us being an online campaign and not having direct offices is if you do have a skill that you think we could use, from like graphic design to just liking to talk to people or whatever it may be, data entry, even if you don't live in the state, you can help, which is exciting too. So all that can be found on votersnotpoliticians.com.
Cool. And I really like your website. I think it's very well done. So kudos on that.
Amelia Kilone, she totally did it. Like our first, when we were going to launch, she made it in like 2 nights. It was fantastic. And then it's evolved over time, but it's just very cool what you can do with the power of volunteers, wanting to do, something positive in the world.
Yeah. And I was excited to see that you also sell t-shirts.
Yeah, for a donation, you can get a t-shirt. We have a Slay the Dragon t-shirt in a couple different colors, and then also some of our Voters Not Politicians with our voters should choose their politicians, not the other way around phrase. And if you are a Michigander, we have Calling Every Michigander, end the gerrymander, I think. So all of those are volunteer ideas too, which has been fun.
Have you been hearing at all from people in other states who are interested in replicating what you've done?
Yeah, part of the very exciting piece of this campaign is seeing how many other states want to do this. I think you think about politics or you're really frustrated with, what's happening in your state and you're not always sure what to do, but going after a big systemic change, something like redistricting or campaign finance or, any of those, there are actual solutions that you can do. And we've been hearing from people across the country. Like I said, unfortunately, not all states have a ballot initiative process. So really they either need to work with their state legislature or with a lawsuit. But where there are states with a ballot initiative, I think we're seeing movement across the country. This really is a countrywide thing. I think the 2016 election, there was this kind of theme of anti-establishment and wanting to drain the swamp and all of that. And I think that's, resonating across the country because we have kind of let our democracy get eroded a little bit. And if we don't start changing these systems to actually be fair again and to look out for the people, then it might be at risk that we actually have representation.
All right. Is there anything else you want to make sure that people know?
I think, just if there's something that you're frustrated about and wanting upset with in politics, don't be afraid to try and research or reach out and see what other groups in your state are trying to do something about it, because our campaign literally wouldn't be possible if people didn't step up. We're still all volunteer, although we've been able to hire some contractors, which is very exciting, but every single day, it's the only reason that this is happening and that we're, going to get on the 2018 ballot is because people have decided to get involved and not just sit on the sidelines or, take it beyond just that Facebook post, going and putting their effort behind it too. So it can make a difference. And I think, maybe a year ago, I don't know if I would have thought that we could have gotten where we are, and we definitely have. And it's really made a difference.
Well, this is a super exciting project. I was just thrilled when I first heard about it, and hearing the excitement in your voice when you talk about it sort of brings that all up again, how really cool something like this is, participatory democracy. So.
Yeah, our Michigan State Constitution opens with all political power is inherent in the people. And I love it because it is so true and reflective. People really can come together to make the world better. So even though it's a little hokey, it can happen.
Thank you, Katie. This has been a really exciting conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Our theme music is called Sweeter Vermouth and was composed by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. It is licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Our logo was created by Matthew Weflin, expressly for Two Broads Talking Politics, and is copyright 2017. You can contact us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com or at twobroadstalk on Twitter. Our podcast can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and TuneIn. Please let us know if you have any trouble finding us.